Welcome to Ask An Innovator. Don't call it a comeback because my next guest has been here for years. After a landslide 2018 election win, Councillor Shelby Ch'ng, don't call her Chang, has taken the power back. She's giving it to Victoriaville. She's giving it to Thunder Bay. I had a couple Public Enemy and Rage Against the Machine kind of innuendos in my intro. You're laughing. That makes me happy. Welcome to Ask An Innovator. We are super excited to have you.
I'm totally excited to be here.
All right. So my first favorite question for you is Thunder Bay, glass half empty, glass half full. Are we a positive? Are we kind of negative? Where do we stand?
You know what? I want to say both.
Yeah.
I think there are two Thunder Bays.
Yeah.
And there are people who have and people who have not. There are the glass half empty, people half full, people on Facebook, people who are not.
Yeah. It's really juxtaposed. There's a real dichotomy.
Super juxtaposed.
Is it Port Arthur and Fort William?
That, I would say, is at the bottom of the split list.
Yeah. Now those that use, we know that in Thunder Bay, we know, and the reason I bring up the question about glass half empty and glass half full, and we ask all of our guests that question, is because I'm curious about positivity. I'm curious about living a life of happiness, living a life of being ambitious. Are we going in the right direction as a community?
You know what? I think Thunder Bay has some prime fertile ground for business and innovation and thinking. Like, I don't believe that if I were in any other municipality, I would have the opportunities I have had in business and in politics. And I've been quite successful so far. So I'm glass half full.
Yeah.
And but I could completely identify with people who don't have the same opportunities as me. But yeah.
Yeah, well said. Is glass half full, do you think, a component to your success? Is being a positive person giving you the ability to have a successful business and have a successful political career?
I don't know. I think that's a bit of a reductionist argument to make.
I love it.
My success, I think, comes from a number of things. It comes from maybe a little bit of mental health issues for me, always trying to strive and
right. Okay. Wow. I love
being a little bit aggressive with myself.
Yeah.
It comes from the support in my family. It comes from the needs in the community, just lining up with what I want and seeing opportunity.
Yeah.
So I half full, half empty. It's more
Right.
seeing the opportunity and how to line up your arrow with the target.
Yeah, I heard you just kind of mention something about mental health, and mental health is, for me, is something that's near and dear. I truthfully almost lost my life to a mental health disorder, and I am here today in recovery and strong, and I've never been more powerful. And yeah, thank you. And so we love vulnerability on this show, and I know that I've used some kind of mental health concerns to my benefit. Have you done the similar kind of thing? You kind of mentioned the idea.
Yeah, working through some things, even just anxiety in general. Dealing with the public it changes people, and it changes people to their core. And yeah, it's not an easy job being a counselor.
Yeah. You don't say.
Yeah, talk about reduction. That was a euphemism there, but I just. Yeah, you have to learn how to manage things, work-life balance. I know that's something very easy to say,
sure
work-life balance.
Yeah.
But when you start to see the effects your actions have on people, when you say give up things, spending time with your friends and your family and people who care about you, you really have to balance things out. And it's just making sure that I'm always having to check myself to make sure that I'm not overdoing it.
Right.
Because I do overdo it all the time,
and
which leads to success, which then feeds into that I have to do more of this.
Yeah.
But it's not healthy in the long run.
Yeah. Does the idea of having a plan, writing it down and reading it, connect with you? I mean, how do you render down your day? How do you stay organized and balance specifically? Daytimer? Do you take notes in your phone?
Notes all the time.
Notes all the time.
Google Keep and my calendar.
Okay.
Those are my two.
Yeah. So a combination of digital and analog, paper and pen and technology.
And I have a memory like an elephant.
You do.
I have an excellent memory.
You're blessed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't. If I don't write it down, I'm going to forget it.
Sometimes it's a curse too.
Yeah.
Especially when you're married.
Okay. Yes. Fair. And we should get into that, actually. Maybe
Sure.
in the next segment, we'll talk about that, because you mentioned something that was very interesting about work-life balance. And I like to I strive to have a life balance. Work is, for people like you and I, is a bit of a preoccupation in some ways. And how do you maintain a life / work-life balance?
It is really difficult because both my roles, whether I'm a business owner or a council member, rely on my mind and thinking about problem solving.
Yeah.
It's constant problem solving, and I can never seem to shut that part of my brain off. I was chilling out with my husband, and we were trying to meditate.
Yeah.
And he
awesome.
turns to me and he's like he falls asleep within like a minute of meditating.
Yeah, that's all right.
And I'm just like, I'm thinking in my head, I gotta do this, gotta do that. Why did that person say that? And then it just, I just keep analyzing these things in my head. And he's like, you really just can't sit still, can you? And he didn't mean it to, it didn't hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
It was an honest moment. And he just called me out on something that and I can't sit still. And once I realized that was actually my problem, I've been able to work towards sitting still a little bit and just kind of clearing my mind.
I love it. Yeah, one of my favorite authors is Emmett Fox, and he talks about the solution lying within the problem. And so being thankful for our problems, because it's the path towards solution. Yeah, it's
Cool.
good. Meditation, is it a regular practice?
It's a new practice for me. Doesn't always work. Shelby shouldn't be left alone by herself with herself.
Okay. How you describe your husband, and your husband's name?
Damien.
Damien. So I'm hearing you and Damien. I can visualize you sitting down. Hey, honey, let's meditate. How do you get to the?
Well, I mentioned to him I wanted to meditate, and so I have this app that I have a personal trainer, and she's like, try this app. She's like, just do 5 minutes. I know you can't sit still for long, just try 5 minutes. So I'm like, okay. So I turned on this app, and then my husband comes up, he's like, oh, I'll do this with you. I'm like, okay, so we're listening to this. And next thing you know, I look over to him, and he's just like ugly snoring, oh, buddy. And it was funny. And then I kind of just poked him a little bit to make him stop, and then he's like, oh, you can't sit still, can you? I'm like,
I hear this idea of in relationships, successful relationships, and you clearly have one, where opposites attract. If I'm hearing your meditative styles, he's having a nap a minute in, and your brain is hamster wheeling away.
Oh, he's super meditative. He likes yoga. I'm not a fan of yoga. We're just two completely opposite people. However, we do have the same wonder of the world, and we both like food and music.
Yes. Okay. So, well, we have that. And is there a style of music that you love? Can you expose your counselor loves heavy metal?
No, no. I like folk, like Neil Diamond.
Awesome.
Like all the way to Janis Joplin.
Yeah.
I'm really into this band called the Bahamas. I'm so in love with them.
That's fantastic. The Bahamas.
The Bahamas, yeah.
It's mid-February, one day before Valentine's. It sounds like a wonderful place to be.
Yeah. I play a little guitar too, so that kind of helps chill me out. So I'm always looking for new music to bastardize on my guitar.
That's amazing. So we are going to hit the commercial, and when we come back, we're going to dive into a little bit about a day in the life of a counselor in Thunder Bay / business owner, successful business owners. So we'll be right back with Ask an Innovator. This is really inspired. I am super fired up for Shelby Ch'ng.
Ch'ng, not Chang.
Not Chang. Awesome. Be right back. Welcome back to Ask an Innovator. We are going to dive in right now to a topic. We're going to keep it regional. We're going to keep it municipal. We're going to go from the Northwood to Victoriaville. Business owner in Victoriaville.
Oh, not in Victoriaville. I'm in the chapel building.
In the chapel. Oh, sorry.
Huge difference.
Right. Huge difference. Okay. No, this is good. This is good.
Okay.
Talk about regional. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
You're a few feet away from Victoriaville. Victoriaville seems to be a contention. Is it fair to say that Victoriaville is a contention in Thunder Bay? Is that taking it too far? Yeah.
No, I think The last polls showed 80% of people wanted it down. 20% wanted to keep it.
Right.
I see from the audit books, it cost $500,000 a year to operate. I'm in there almost every single day. I don't see the value for that. I do believe that, I think it was like a Reddit user a bit ago that said this. I like Reddit too.
Sure.
It said that Victoriaville was actually built for an alternative future. It was a future that didn't have internet, didn't have our modern amenities.
Right.
So the idea of Victoriaville was that these malls were becoming more popular. So if you could if you had somewhere to walk in the wintertime, this would be perfect. And when you think about how that decision came about, it did make sense for that time. But I mean, fast forward to now, we got leaking buckets in the roof. I just don't think it's relevant anymore to our needs.
I read a little bit just before I knew we were going to talk about Victoriaville a little bit today, and just before I came onto the show and did a little bit of prep today. Shelby actually was before off camera. One of our favorite things to do is talk off camera. What we talk about off camera. She sees me taking my pen and my scribbling some notes down here, and she goes, "Did you prepare?"
Totally gave him the gears on.
Right. I started preparing about 5 minutes before the show.
So
yeah, I did prepare knowing that we were going to talk about Victoriaville, and I read an interesting little article about architectural design and the issue over years. And you bring up a good point about the kind of the technology bubble that we had, and how the world we live in is different. And yes, Victoriaville being a good place to go in wintry months, and we know we have those here. The issue that this article defined was by blocking a street off and turning it into a mall, it's like kind of blocking a vein or an artery in the human body. It creates stagnation and it creates kind of social confusion,
right.
if you will. Does that connect? Does that make any sense?
No.
Okay.
It's a metaphor.
I love your honesty.
I don't. I mean, people always look for these metaphors to make sense of things.
Yeah.
I understand arteries. Don't really understand this. It's movement of people, whether you're on foot or by vehicle, so it still has traffic. I don't know. I just don't believe in metaphors like that.
I love it. I love that you just don't kind of. It's true though, because a lot of when people
I don't care.
Metaphor. Yeah, but it's interesting though, because metaphors actually, now that you're saying it, can almost be kind of manipulative in a way, because it's people can, of course. Well, I can relate to that. Sure, I'm just going to agree.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So, and when you're making decisions on like $360 million budgets, you got to really know how to weed through, get to the point. Okay, what does this actually mean?
Yeah. Is it boundary setting? On your opinion, are you being an effect? I'm hearing you. I'm just going to tell you what this is interesting. I think you're an effective counselor, and you've been a counselor since 2014, which is a long run. Landslide, as I said in my little monologue there, landslide victory. And I believe it's because of what you're able to do even in this interview right now, which is kind of set a boundary, not be, say, talked into agreeing with something that you listen very well.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Tell that to the constituents.
I will. Well, I think the constituents have clearly spoken, obviously, by electing you back in again on a landslide. Interesting. So back to Victoriaville. That was a cool little digression. Bullet statement: roof off or roof on? What do we do with Victoriaville?
I'm roof off for sure. I don't know what it'll look like after. I have my own ideas open to conversation. Is that going to be the new bus hub? Is it going to be a square so that people can protest and do a march to City Hall? I'm thinking about all these cool things that we can use that space for.
Right.
Do we just open it up to a street? Do we make it slanted parking like on Bay Street? I think there are a number of things that we're doing in the city that are working, like Bay and Algoma, beautiful. Can we replicate that in the South Core?
Yeah.
There's a lot of empty storefront space. I think it's hard to say. It could be one of those decisions though, where 30 years from now, be like, oh, I wish we had a covered spot, and like these things go in and out of fashion all the time.
Yeah,
so.
That's interesting, because I love that you identified 30-year chunks. There are different waves of disruption in time and in industry, socially kind of happen. There's always a new normal being created, and to your point, the normal then was to put a roof for obvious reasons, and the normal now might be able to remove that roof. Why hasn't it happened?
Two things. One, the environmental assessment piece. So when the city is looking at doing projects like this, the Ministry of the Environment said, hey, you have to do some environmental pieces to this. Terribly cost prohibitive to get into an environmental assessment. I think we're coming to a decision on that. I don't know where that decision is at the moment. We've been working on the budget, so it's been on the back burner. Second piece is the money. It's last numbers I heard, 10 million to tear it down, 10 million to fix the roof. What do we want to do? There's no zero cost option because we still have to buy buckets, and it's $500,000 to keep the place operational.
If there was a social movement, you mentioned social media a couple times, and we'll talk about that in the next segment. If there was a social movement around removing the roof, hashtag raise the roof. Say.
Oh, cute.
Right? Hashtag raise the roof. And there was a social movement around mobilizing people on social media to, as you say, collaborate, protest, what have you. Would that be enough to get whatever levels outside of municipal? Obviously, you're doing an amazing job municipally, provincially, or federally to kind of take notice and add to it. I mean, Thunder Bay is a very important hub in Canada.
Yeah. Oh, we could get 200 people to protest on anything in Thunder Bay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could, if you want to protest, sure. We could find people to agree with us and
Right. Would it help?
and do it. Yes and no. I mean, I think protests are just one of those naturally organic things that people do, and it's part of the democracy machine, or the democratic machine. I think some councillors respond well to that. Some people don't, depending on if you agree or disagree with the protest. So,
Would raising the roof be better for your business?
it doesn't matter. Getting people married helps my business.
Well, that's
What's going on, Cole? Did I see a ring on your
yeah,
finger?
no, and you have a beautiful one, I'll point out. Yeah, I noticed, again, off camera, we're talking about Shelby's amazing ring. She's backing it
My
up.
husband designed it, actually.
No way.
Yeah.
What?
I wanted a vintage ring, and he thought it had weird juju on it, and so he designed a vintage style for me. I'm
Hey.
like, this is like the symbol of compromise.
Weird juju.
Weird
Bad
juju.
juju.
Bad
You don't want
juju.
that.
No.
No, especially when it comes. There's enough bad juju around marriages these days anyway.
Yeah.
Right. Which may or may not bode well for your business. That's a whole other conversation.
It doesn't matter as long as they get married.
As long as I get
I'm not
married.
responsible for the marriage.
Right. Okay. Yeah. The quality of the marriage. Yeah. That could be like an add-on to your, a value
But divorce
add.
is great because then they could get
I
remarried.
was just going to say, okay, you just read my mind. I love it. So there's the candor. There's the vulnerability. That's what we look for on this show. Absolutely amazing. Okay, we are going to be back shortly with Councillor Shelby Ch'ng.
Ch'ng, not Chang.
Not Chang. We're going to ask our favorite Ask an Innovator question. So stay right with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Ask an Innovator. I have my all-time favorite entrepreneur question. Councillor,
Yeah.
what would you say to the would-be entrepreneur who's got a great idea but can't put it into action? Maybe there's fear, a little bit of lack of courage, can't get off the couch,
Yeah.
have the ambition to go and do it. You're clearly courageous.
Yeah. I was thinking about this question too, and I was like, how
Okay.
do I give the most honest answer?
Yeah.
I actually don't like giving advice to people.
Okay.
If you can't get off the couch, there's nothing I can do for you.
Right.
Like, if there's maybe an issue with like marketing or like a very specific thing, like I do I've had many little business mentorees, and I've helped other people in business, but it's always like over a specific issue. And no two business people are alike and will follow the same path. I really think entrepreneurship is one of those things you have to slug it out, often learn the hard way, and make some mistakes so that you become resilient. And
So it's very interesting. I really, really like what you said. And again, blatant honesty. You don't like doing what with people?
just giving advice.
You don't giving
like,
advice.
No.
Yeah, and I'm curious. I love that. And
Well-
why? Because everyone in this day and age, especially with social media, call it the keyboard cowboy.
Everybody has
cloaked
advice.
behind the courage of a screen, and everyone's giving it. And you're not. Tell me about that. I'm really curious. Why don't you like to give it advice?
I feel responsible then for people.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be responsible for somebody else's business.
Yeah.
If there's something like, hey, if you looked at this, maybe it would help you dig at this.
Right.
That's fine. I do that to, like, and people do it to me too. But in terms of like motivating people to get off the couch to make a decision on something that they're not quite passionate about,
Right.
and then maybe they get in debt, and then I feel responsible for that. I don't want that on my conscience.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
no advice.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And again, I'm hearing a message of boundary setting again, which is very powerful. I mean, and for me personally, I believe that one of the most powerful words in the world is no.
Yeah.
I believe no can help more people than yes, not being a people pleaser, and
Yeah.
you know, drawing that line in the sand is.
Were you looking for some business advice?
Well, hey, you know, truthfully, yes, always, absolutely. We could change the interview. If you could, yeah,
It's like product something something profits. That's
Yeah.
my advice.
That's it, right? Margin,
Yeah.
you know, a value add. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Your business has been around for 7 years. You're in the bridal space. What
Yep.
has been one of the keys to your success and your longevity?
Actually, I think that I'm just at the right point of the wave. And when I say that, I found that when you look through business history, you have small businesses in little boutiques,
Yeah.
and then you get to this department store idea, and everybody, it was super trendy to buy in a department store. Then it went to big box,
Yeah.
and it killed the small business,
Yeah.
and gutted out our cores.
Yeah.
But then enter Amazon and
Right.
those big players, and then the big boxes start to suffer, and then people still want that personal experience. So then we're seeing the rise of
love it.
boutique culture.
Yes.
And I think it's going to create more jobs, assessments. People are going to be happier. They
Yeah.
have control over their lives. I mean, we're not all going to be millionaires in business, I can tell you that, but we'll be happier and we'll have control, and we'll be doing something and employing people
Yeah.
and making payroll and making rent. And
I have been talking and philosophizing about what you just said, and I would say in the last 6 months, you're the only person who I've come across to identify what you just described as the success of technology and online shopping has resulted in the demise of some forms of brick and mortar, but yet the rise of the boutique.
yeah.
And I love that. And I believe personally that
Hashtag rise of the boutique.
rise of the boutique, hashtag rise of the boutique, hashtag raise the roof,
Yeah.
rise of the boutique. I
Yeah.
love it. It's great.
Yeah.
It's been wonderful. And the so technology, how do you use technology in marketing your business?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I use there's a local company I've teamed up with that kind of helped me. They were really good because they taught me as much as I needed to know, because I really like to do things myself, and it's really interesting. So they kind of set me on followed the breadcrumbs, and now I'm making my own website on WordPress. None of this Wix drag and drop stuff. It's like search engine optimization. Like those things are huge for my business. So yeah, especially in a time when people are using social media
Yeah.
and technology and search engines to look for their very specific things. And then if there's a way I can fill a need, then there I am.
There you are. Do you reach out of Thunder Bay? Do you have customers in
Totally.
Northwestern Ontario? Do you sell
Northwestern
wedding?
Ontario, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Toronto? Winnipeg?
Not Toronto and Winnipeg. Usually like Fort Francis, Sault Ste. Marie,
Wow,
North.
amazing.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of the catchment area. I'm giving out some trade secrets here.
Yeah.
I have been targeting brides in Duluth
Yeah.
and North, because south of Duluth would go to Minneapolis.
Yeah.
So if they wanted to save on the Canadian dollar, if they have a passport, they could come
Right.
up here.
Right.
We've had a couple brides from the States come. Not a lot of Americans have passports, though. I found this out. Yeah, I was told it was unpatriotic for an American to have the passport.
Okay, I feel a Donald Trump joke, but I'll just. Yeah, right. He just kind of.
Yeah.
There's a wall or something we don't know about.
Yeah.
Who
Well,
knows?
even before then, though, when I was trying to get Americans up here, because so many times people went to Duluth to David's Bridal to
Right.
to purchase their wedding dress. but I want to get some of that money back.
Yeah, get that money back. And I mean,
Yeah.
how often do we hear of people going down to ride-ins or going down to do Christmas shopping in the U.S. And
Yeah.
I think you're so bright. And I had a business once leveraging the strength of the Canadian dollar, or the lack thereof, the strength of the Canadian dollar, strength of the American dollar versus Canadian dollar. You know, selling to Americans is great.
Yeah.
And we're in Thunder Bay. Do you think that Thunder Bay entrepreneurs should be targeting their businesses in the U.S. a little bit more, considering we are essentially a border town?
Depending on what it is, absolutely. Like if you provide a good or service, you know your catchment area and where people would want to buy things. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily be advertising in Florida, but if somebody could take a weekend trip or even just a one-day trip to come where I am, then why not? And then have the experience and yeah.
I love how you sourced a local company. I'm assuming a local kind of a social technology incubator type company to help promote your business online. And it's wonderful that we have, even in Thunder Bay, we had a couple people in that space on the show here, and they tell us that they can run their business. Being in tech now, you can run your business from anywhere. It can be Thunder Bay.
I still prefer to sit down with people and like, okay, show me how this works. I can't tell you how many YouTube videos and just onslaught of things I'm just looking at because everybody has their own different marketing and social media, the 10 steps to best social media of life. But until you sit down with somebody and they're like, actually, this makes more sense if you did this. And then you could formulate your own opinions on how things work.
Wow. How things work. There we go. We just worked it out.
We worked it out.
Councillor Ch'ng, thank you so much. That was absolutely amazing. This was one of my all-time favorite Ask An Innovators. Thanks for being with us. I hope you're inspired. Get out there. That camera. Get out there. Innovate.